The CD0 transformation tag also can work with auto key mode, so that if we wanted to auto key these coordinates, but not the regular coordinates, we could turn off position, scale, and rotation, and make sure that parameter is turned on. Then we go into auto key mode, advance the frame, and we can move the object and rotate it here in the viewport, and it automatically set keys. Now, the auto key feature of CD0 transformation only works with Cinema 4D R9.5 and above. Anything prior to that, this auto key feature does not work. CD Transfer Tools also has a few additional commands that may or may not show up here in the menu. And that's because these commands are also included in some of my other plugins. So if you have the other plugins installed, those commands will show up in the other plugins menus and not in CD Transfer Tools menu. Two of the commands that I've included are the CD link objects and CD unlink objects. These two commands are included in CD Joints and Skin plugin. They were originally designed for parenting and non-parenting joints, but I found them very useful for parenting and non-parenting other objects. To link one object to another, you would select the object, shift select the target object, and call the command. And you can see the object was made a child of the target object. Now, this command also works in group mode, so that if you shift select more than two objects and call the command, then all of the selected objects will be made a child of the last selected object. If the target object already has a child object and you want to link another object to the target, that new child is placed below the previous child. If you wanted that child to be placed above the previous child, then you can hold the control key down and call the command, and the new child is placed above the previous one. The CD unlink objects will unlink an object from its parent. To use that, you would simply select the object and call the command. And you can see the unlinked object was placed at the top of the object manager. Now, this command also has a modifier key, so that if you hold the control key down and call the command, then the object is placed at the bottom of the object manager. The CD unlink objects also works in group mode, so that if we wanted to unlink more than one child object, we simply shift select them in the viewport and call the command. Another command that I've added from CD Joints and Skin is CD Freeze Transformation. Now, this is actually a new command that will appear in the next update of CD Joints and Skin, and it will replace the CD Normalize Transform command. CD Freeze Transformation will normalize an object's matrix, but leave its geometry at its current transformation. So if we select this object here and call the command, you can see its matrix or axis has returned to world 0. The position is 0, the scale is 1, and the rotation is 0. But the geometry stayed where it was. Now we can select to freeze position, scale, or rotation. If we hold the control key down and call the command, for example, we could turn off position and only freeze, scale, and rotation. Now, if the object is a primitive object or a non-editable object, we can actually only freeze the scale. And that's because the object's geometry is defined by its parameters here, which are based on the axis. So if we used CD freeze transformation on this object with scale and rotation enabled, you can see it normalized the scale and rotation, and it recalculated the object's size, but the geometry rotated with the axis. We can also choose to convert the primitive to a polygon object before we freeze it. If we hold the Control key down and open up the options and turn on Convert Primitives, you can see it converted the primitive to a polygon object, and then it normalized the scale and the rotation. If the object has any child objects and we wanted to also freeze them, we can open up the options and select Include Children. And you can see it converted all of the child objects to polygon objects, and it normalized all of their scale and rotations. I've also added a couple of commands from CDIK Tools plugin, and these are simple one-click solutions for zeroing the global rotation of an object and zeroing the local rotation of an object. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this introduction video to my new plugin, CD Transfer Tools, and I hope you find a lot of practical uses for the plugins. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Adios.